Hello, everybody. It's Kiev. It's the internal education. My name is Olena Mikhodui. We're going to start in a minute. If you could please let me know if you hear me well. So please write in the chat box your names or where you come from. So hello. Thank you very much. Sumy region is here. Chernigiv, Kropivnitsky. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for being with us at 5 p.m. All right, so I guess the connection is all right, so we can start. It's 5 o'clock sharp. So hello again. Thanks again for joining another webinar from the internal education. My name is Olena Mikhodui. I am a teacher trainer. I work for the company which exclusively represents the biggest educational brand in the world, Pearson, in Ukraine. So we are the internal education, and this is our series of webinars which we do on a regular basis. So if you are here with me today, it means it's probably not the first webinar of the internal education which you watch. So do we have any newcomers? Do we have anybody here who is watching an internal education webinar for the first time? If so, just let me know. So I will say hello to you. Zolochev is here. Hust, Lviv, Brovary. So great to have you here with me. I hope the weather in your places is as good as here in Kiev. We can feel spring in the air, so it's really sunny and nice, and it's getting warmer. The weather is getting warmer, so it's just great. And we're looking forward to a long weekend. So the Monday is off. So tomorrow is Friday. Let's just look forward to something positive ahead. So holidays are coming. Before actually I start the webinar itself, a brief reminder about certificates, because it's the most typical question about certificates. So everybody who is watching today's webinar will get a certificate of attendance. So make sure you check your email boxes during a week after today's event. You will get your certificate. All right. So a few more moments before actually we start our work. Today during the session, I will ask you to do some tasks, just some basic tasks. So make sure you have a piece of paper or a notebook and a pen or a pencil for taking notes. All right. So it's thing number one, something to write on. And another thing, I will also ask you to search for some information. So maybe you could grab your smartphone, or well, you will need access to internet just at some point during the session. So make sure you're able to do that as well. So something to write on and some gadget to search for some information when the time comes. All right. Okay, so today it's about grammar. If you probably remember, the webinar is called a 5-star grammar lesson. So we're going to have a look together at some ways of planning a grammar lesson, how to do it in the best possible way. Just before we actually start designing a grammar lesson together, let's start with the definition of the word itself, grammar, right? Grammar. It's something very serious, something very important. The classical definitions of these words, so if you start searching for that, will be something like this. So grammar is the system of the language, okay? So something very substantial, something very important and very serious, so something even scary a bit. Another definition which I found, which is again true, and well, it is grammar. So grammar is the set of rules used to ensure the correct use of language. But you know what? My favorite definition of grammar, which I once came across And I love this definition. I think it's very, very true, especially when you work with teenagers, is the following. It goes like, grammar is the pole. I hope you remember what a pole is, right? Something you can use for walking, something like straight, like a stick, which helps you, okay? So grammar is the pole you grab to get your thoughts up on their feet and walking. I think it's absolutely great. And well, the person who said that is a person who we all probably know, Stephen King. So he's a great author, a very famous author, writer. And I think here the main message is that, well, yes, grammar, it is about learning rules. For us teachers, it's about teaching rules. But we often forget that grammar is in the first place a tool which we should give to our students to help them express what they want, to help them tell other people what they think, and so on. So I think it's a very interesting definition of grammar. I personally like it a lot. So today I decided to share this definition with you. You can just keep it in mind if you wish. So it's the pole which helps you express yourself, express your thoughts. All right. Now, so it was about me. I showed you my favorite definition of what grammar is. I personally like grammar. As a teacher, I always loved teaching grammar. Now, a few questions over to you. All right. So let's just try to get this interaction a bit. I will show you two simple statements, and your answer is just to say yes or not, like agree or disagree. The statement is about you, all right? So the first statement is this: I love teaching grammar. Is it yes or no? Just for you. Do you like teaching grammar? Yes, thank you very much. I guess we're in the same boat. Most teachers, most of my colleagues, actually all I would say they love teaching grammar. There is some feeling of, just, I know, security probably because I know there is a certain formula, right, which I need to teach. And if I see some result at the end, it gives me this pleasant feeling. So, fine, so I've done the job and so on. So teachers usually love teaching grammar. Thank you. So most of you are here with me. And the second statement, my students love learning grammar. All right, so what about your students? Some people say no, sometimes. Here it's more no's, which it depends. So it's not so much, it's not so unanimous, right? Not so many yeses here. Different students, different grammar topics. Of course it differs. Well, of course you understand that this statement is just something for us to think about, but usually students don't find grammar as fascinating as teachers, so we love it, students don't. And what I think it's our job as teachers to at least try to let students feel that grammar is not as scary, is not as bad as it might look. And it's our job for sure to make grammar lessons more engaging and fun. And it's not that difficult. So that's why today we will try to have a look at, well, how we can make grammar lessons more engaging for students. So once again, the topic of today's webinar is a 5-star grammar lesson. It's part 1 because, well, teaching grammar is a big thing. It's a big issue. Today we will just start discussing planning grammar lessons. And you probably see here I've got 5 stars, 5 gray stars on the left. And they are 5 features which I think define a successful grammar lesson. 3 features, 3 first features is something we all share, okay? It's something which goes without saying. Of course, a successful grammar lesson is a lesson when we see that students understand the grammar points, okay? So it's like tick number one. So that's done. So they understand the grammar. So I'm a good teacher. I explained it correctly. The second one is students have enough practice during the lesson. So it's also if they have enough practice, the lesson is good. The third feature of a successful grammar lesson is, very important. It's important to let students uh, produce the newly learned grammar at the end. Sometimes we don't have time at the end of the lesson. Again, it's about teachers' time management. So it can be the start of the following lesson. It can be another lesson, but still, whatever we teach, we need to remember that students must have a chance to produce it and to show the teachers that they can use the grammar in freer speaking, freer production. However, these three features make it not a 5-star but a 3-star rating system, which is not enough, right? So there are two more criteria which I myself think they are extremely important for making a grammar lesson a real success. So what I believe, and I think they are maybe even more important than the first three. So a successful grammar lesson, in my understanding, is something more than just a grammar lesson. So it's a lesson which integrates a lot of things, grammar being a part of it. All right. And the final thing, which is again extremely important, students must enjoy this lesson. Again, whose job that is? It's our job. So most of you said that your students don't like grammar that much. So, but if I see that students loved the lesson, they had fun during the grammar lesson which I taught, for me, it's another tick, this, 5th star, which shows that, yes, this lesson was a success. And I always try to think about this when I plan grammar lessons, all right? So you probably remember, and well, I'm sure you remember that there are two main approaches to teaching grammar. Maybe you can even help me with the terms. There are two words. The first starting with a D, and the second approach, the word starts with an I. Two approaches to teaching grammar. Deductive and deductive. Thank you very much, Natalia. Absolutely correct. So deductive and inductive. Both are fine. Both are widely used. So there is nothing wrong with this or that approach. Let's just try to recall very briefly the difference between them. So the deductive approach is teacher-centered, all right? So the teacher usually explains the rule. The teacher gives examples, making sure students understand everything and everything is clear. The teacher gives students some practice, do this task, like the teacher corrects mistakes. The teacher checks if they understand the rule. So it's mostly about the teacher. Again, I was a deductive teacher for many years, and I found it, it's very convenient because you manage everything. You manage the time of the lesson, you manage the flow of the lesson. It is teacher-led, so the thing which is not so positive here is probably that most work during this lesson is done by the teacher, all right? However, it saves time, so sometimes deductive approach is the only approach which teachers use because, for example, you have some short course. Sometimes you have a student with a couple of months before a certain exam, and this is the only way when you can quickly teach that student something before the exam. So it's just, it does save time. And the usual framework which teachers follow just during deductive grammar lessons is the classical PPP framework. Maybe I have somebody here who can decipher the 3 Ps. So the PPP framework of a lesson, they stand for presentation, practice, and production. Thank you very much. So it's the, classical structure of a lesson. We present, we give them some practice time, and hopefully at the end, if our time management is okay, so they produce something. Inductive approach is different, so the nature of the approach is different. It's very student-centered. So here it's just all about students, and most of the talking, most of the thinking, most of the things, most of the work is done by students, which is great. However, it's more time consuming, and teachers should be realistic about this. So when you choose which way to build your lesson. And finally, which framework do you think we follow here? So the PPP framework is always popular. Today, I would like to show you a different way of structuring lessons, grammar lessons. We speak about grammar lessons today. And this is, also, we also have 3 letters here, not 3 P's, 3 other letters. And this approach is now my favorite. I don't know if you ever heard about the ESA teaching method, but I think it's more student friendly. And I personally, I started practicing it, some years ago, and now I think it's the only approach which I use when I start planning my grammar lessons and, for example, vocabulary lessons. So anybody here can help me with deciphering these 3 letters, ESA? So 3 words, 3 verbs. Okay, engage, study, and activate. It's now my favorite way of designing, again, a grammar lesson. And today I will try to illustrate, to start actually explaining how it works. I think it's great. The ESA teaching method was invented some years ago, some 10, I guess, years ago by Jeremy Harmer. He's a genius teacher. He is a great teacher trainer. He's the author of lots of ELT resources. And actually, Jeremy Harmer visited Ukraine last year. And maybe we even have people here who attended his session. He's sometimes even called the god of ELT methodology. Anyway, Jeremy Harmer is a teacher in the first place, so he has been into teaching for, I think, more than 40 years. And he came up with the ESA approach after, just teaching students for many, many years. And he was the one who said that sometimes the classical PPP approach is too teacher-centered. So Jeremy Harmer invented the ESA way of building lessons, which is, he says, I agree 100%, is more student-friendly. Students have more student talking time, so students talk more than a teacher. And one more thing which I love about ESA, it's very flexible. So you can use it with lower levels, with higher levels, because, the lessons are different. So the way you teach students at lower levels and higher levels, so they differ a bit, right? So ESA approach is perfect for both cases. So today we will try to have a look together at how the ESA way of teaching works in a grammar lesson. I will use our new resource. I'm sure you heard about HighNote already. So HighNote is a resource for upper secondary sector. It's a brand new resource from Pearson, which is new in Ukraine here for 2020. So my colleagues already had a number of webinars about HighNote, so I'm sure you heard about this resource. I will use HighNote 2 level pre-intermediate, strong pre-intermediate, to illustrate how you can plan a grammar lesson using the ESA approach. All right. So let's imagine I'm planning a lesson. So that's my lesson notes, let's say. So lesson type grammar. The framework which I'm going to follow is the ESA today. The level of students is pre-intermediate, which is year, let's say 8 or 9 at your schools, depending on the number of hours which you teach. The course book I use is High Note 2. And now target language. So my grammar, my target language, which I plan to teach in the lesson is this. Comparison of adjectives. And you see that it's like all forms, adjective, comparative, superlatives, some irregular forms, some phrases, ways of comparing, not as, to, not enough. So it's quite a lot, all right? Okay, so this is the target language. And the first stage, according to the ESA sequence, is engage. I don't know if you, when you write your lesson plans, I don't know if you, do you often write formal lesson plans? Because it's kind of a must, right? So to write all those lesson objectives and so on. If you have a chance to write it, perfect. But even if not, every teacher, I think, should have a lesson plan here in his or her head, because this is what's important. You can lose that piece of paper, but if you know how to start a lesson, what's next, which stages are flexible, where you can save time. So anyway, there should be some kind of plan, either on paper or in your head. So when I think through the stages of my lesson, I always think about why I do this or that. So the purpose of the engage stage is very simple, to get students talking and thinking in English. So when your students come to your lessons, let's say after their maths or history lesson, right? So how can you be sure that they are ready to start speaking English? They are ready for English grammar and so on. So they can be thinking about some different thing. So our task is not to start straight from presentation, right? But to start and to try somehow to engage them. That's why engage is the first stage, the first must-have stage in this sequence. The activities, whatever you choose. So teachers are creative, and I know that. I will show you some basic things, which like flexible things, very popular activities which you can use for the engage stage. So you can start with your favorite warm-up. So you can, I think that sometimes teachers know better how to engage their students. You can start with some personal questions, like personalized activity. And I will show you this now. Chocolate, you probably see it on my screen, so I'm sure most of us here, right? So love chocolate as much as we love grammar. Okay, so can you please get a pen and a piece of paper, which I asked you to prepare before at the start of the webinar. I will ask you 4 questions, and your task is to write down 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, write down 1, 2, 3, 4. And you will write your short answers, all right? 1, your answer. 2, your answer, and so on. Ready? Let's start. So question number 1 is about chocolate. Do you like chocolate? Just write yes or no. Easy. Number 2, your favorite chocolate bar. And could you please try, yes, I see that everybody writes answers in the chat box. No, I want you to write your answers on pieces of paper, not in the chat box. Imagine you're my students, we're in class, there is no webinar platform, so write your answers on pieces of paper. So number 1, write your answer. Number 2, not chat box, I will not count that. Number 2, your favorite chocolate bar. Mine, for example, is Snickers. So I'm a big fan of Snickers. So you can write, well, the brand which you love, all right, on a piece of paper. Number 3, how much money, have you ever come to that? How much money you usually spend on chocolate in a typical week? So when I started doing that, it just made me think. Okay, could you just please write number 3 and just, is it like 50 hryvnias, more than 50, 100 plus, whatever. And again, ladies and gentlemen, not in the chat box, on your pieces of paper, please. And number 4, is chocolate a good gift? Just write yes or no on your piece of paper. Thank you very much. So if you were doing what I asked you to do, you probably got something like this. No questions, but you probably got 4 numbers and 4 answers. These are my answers, right? Yes, Snickers, 100, yes. Chocolate, good gift, I think is bad. Right, very simple. Now, imagine you do it, the engage stage, with your students. It's a grammar lesson. Do you remember the grammar topic? Degrees of comparison, but it's just, I'm not speaking about comparison yet. And I start a lesson like this. Teenagers usually, like 8th year, 9th year, they like chocolate. So we start like this. And students now have their basic answers. What can we do next? We're still engaging them. So they were answering, they were not speaking much, they were just writing their answers. We can easily turn, that's why I was asking you to write answers on your pieces of paper. So first students write their answers, then they draw this grid and they easily turn it into a kind of group work. Okay, it's a very simple like survey. Walk around, you can turn it into a mingle. So if the group is not very big, up to 15 students, they can all stand up, walk around, just, you can write the 4 questions on the board and they walk around collecting answers. Or if you work with a big class, you divide your students into groups of 4 or 5 and they do the same but in their own group, all right? So once again, you can stop here so that you've engaged them this way. Or you could continue if you wish to go further. Students are now ready after they collected information about their group mates. They're ready to show the results, right? How? All right, so it can be like oral presentation in our group. Everybody loves chocolate. The favorite brand is this. Or I want to show you something which I tried with my students and they loved it, infographics. Can you imagine that your students, like every group shows their result, or your group, like if it was like open class mingle, if they show the results like this, okay? So do you like chocolate? This is the result of the group's activity. Or there are different diagrams and students loved it. Your favorite chocolate bar, and we see that somebody voted for Snickers, there is slitage, there is Bounty. Or how much money is spent? This diagram, like less than 50 hryvnias, 50 to 100, 100 plus. There is even a bar-like chart which says that 100% of students think that chocolate is a good gift. Students would love showing the results of their group activity using diagrams and charts. How? Very simple. Those of you who use Microsoft PowerPoint, that's actually my slides are now the slides which I show you. So I use, well, the Microsoft PowerPoint presentation platform. There is this option which says diagrams, and it's very easy to operate. So as soon as they collect information, and you have your laptop with you, so there is this, well, the PowerPoint is a part of Office, so you don't even need internet connection, so you can let them create their graphs and charts and show and share with the class. Students love that. It's just another idea how you could engage your modern students, the Generation Z students, even just better. Or another activity which is great for the engaged stage of the lesson is any kind of quiz. A quiz is just something like short answers, short questions. I continue the same topic. It's chocolate, find facts or myths. For example, true or false? Please just, I'm waiting for answers. True or false? Cocoa beans were used as currency in the Roman Empire. What do you think? Is it true or false? Yes, true, true, true. You say true, false, true. Okay, here is the answer. It's false. And I got you here. So it was a trap. So it was used as currency, but not in the Roman Empire, but by the Mayan and Aztec cultures. Thank you very much. Another question. Chocolate is behind the invention of microwave oven. All right. Any idea? False? Yes? True? Uh-huh. No? You say no? Yes? Okay, let's have a look. It's true. Actually, it's a well-known fact, and if you Google and search, you will find information that there was this guy who was an engineer called Percy Spencer. He was working just on he was doing some experiment, and accidentally his chocolate bar melted in his pocket, and that's how he actually discovered the microwaves, well, the power of microwaves and so on. So you can find that information. It's available. It's fun. Or you can just, what I did, I went to YouTube. It's always there. It's easy, and just Googled for videos with fun facts about chocolate or things you never knew about chocolate. And that's what I found. So 10 things you didn't know about chocolate. Again, uh, you can bring that to class. You can ask your students to take their gadgets and Google and find something in the YouTube and so on. So again, it's a nice and a very engaging start. It's something which they do without thinking that, well, it's my grammar lesson, it's an English lesson. They will just like it. All right. So quizzes or YouTube, well, any kind of video you start a lesson is. Or yet another idea. So sometimes do let them use their smartphones. What I want you to do right now. So can you please grab your smartphone, because I'll ask you to Google and find some information. Are you ready? So your task will be, in 30 seconds, I'll watch the time, to find the answer to the following question, again about chocolate. Ready? Ready for search? Which country eats the most chocolate in the world? 30 seconds. Who is the first to find information? Brazil. Are you sure? Belgium. Are you guessing or trying to find information? It's there. It's in the internet. Belgium. Americans. Switzerland, Helena, right? So actually, thank you very much. That's the answer I found. You know, the information in the internet, they change it every day. But even yesterday, I Googled and checked, and they said that according to different polls, Switzerland is the number one country for chocolate lovers and chocolate eaters. So Belgium is there on the list, and Brazil, and I don't know which position Ukraine is, but just as of yesterday, it was Switzerland. Thank you very much. See, we have Svetlana Nazarenko, who even found some detailed information. So Switzerland and Germany and Ireland. Thank you very much. Now again, back to our classroom and students, right? So do you remember which grammar which type of lesson we are planning? Grammar, right? So I remember the target language, which is still ahead, degrees of comparison. But the first thing which I think about when I start planning the lesson is the sequence: engage, study, activate. I will never forget to teach them the new grammar, but the first thing is to make sure they are engaged. So that's what we did. I hope I engaged you a little bit. Once again, the engage stage is the stage, should be short, not longer than 10 minutes. Again, depending on how much time you plan to spend just on this particular grammar topic. If I know I have 2 lessons which I can invest into, just working, practicing this topic, can be longer, but not, well, up to 10 minutes is enough to engage students. Everyone is involved. Even your weaker students are involved here. It should be interactive, personalized, should be fun. All right. Now, I showed you some examples which I took, just elsewhere, just some chocolate quiz, some YouTube ideas and stuff. Now, let's have a look at a particular page from a particular book. Let's imagine that that's my lesson tomorrow, high note 2, page that and that, grammar that and that. So we can just dot the I's and see how the engage stage is done in the book because it's there. By the way, most modern good quality resources, they try to do the job of the teacher and they try to incorporate the engage stage into the grammar lessons, which actually makes our lives easier. Why chocolate, you ask me? Because, well, that's the spread. You see this chocolate bar. I love the name of the unit, a goodbye. See this play on words? So the unit here it's all about the vocab is shopping, different types of food, everything about like what we eat, what we buy. And well, the grammar, definitely a couple of grammar lessons on the way. So here, this first spread is called grammar and vocab. And that's, if you remember what I mentioned at the start. So in my view, so a good grammar lesson is usually something more than grammar. It should incorporate lots of different things. Grammar would be one of the aspects. And here is the engage part, suggested by High Note. Have a look. Something familiar? You see this? Well, actually, that's what we did with you. Same questions. Do you like chocolate? What's your favorite chocolate bar? How much money you spend on chocolates? So do you ever give chocolate as a gift? And so on. See why I decided to try first to show you and to try some activities with you, because books always suggest some ideas. They have some ready solutions. And you can just transform the task number 1, for example, here into whatever you want. So you can turn it into a mingle, into a pair work, into this infographics thing, or you can keep it short, you can make it keep it longer, depending on the group, depending on the time, and so on. All right, but it's here. So the engage part is here. Task number 1, students are asked, and I will ask you to do that, to look at the cartoons and discuss in pairs why the situation in the second cartoon is different. And we see that 2 guys, like kind of almost identical, they're carrying boxes with chocolate. We see different years, 2013, 2016. But the second box is much smaller. Okay, what happened? So the second box has shrunk. And the thing here, have you ever heard this word? I've just learned it as I was working on this session. Shrinkflation. Actually, it's a situation, there is this tendency now in the world called shrinkflation, when lots of goods, chocolate bars including, so they're getting smaller in size, they're getting lighter, but they cost as much as they used to, or even more than we used to pay. And we kind of usually, they make, the package quite big, but there is a space inside. The bar itself is small. So it's happening in real life. It's here in the book. And in the text, there are some reasons even, mentioned, why it's happening. So, and the third task actually for the students to very quickly read this article and find the reasons why chocolate bars are shrinking. I would definitely, so this is still the engage stage, if you remember. I would definitely set this time limit. You could turn it into a reading race, just who is the first to find 3 reasons, write them, and just explain why chocolate bars are getting smaller. So just to add this element of, just positive stress, let's say, time trading. All right. So once again, the grammar is still ahead. So I can clearly see the rule, the box with a rule like on the next page, there are lots of practice tasks and so on. But the engage stage is here. First, it's in the book, it's in the high note, it's embedded into the lesson. Me as a teacher, I understand the value of it, so I allocate time for the engage stage when I plan this kind of lesson. I can choose whatever way I want my students to interact, mingle, pair work, group work, whatever. But the main thing is to always remember why we do that, okay? To get them like speaking, to let them read a little bit, something interesting, to let students start thinking just generally about some facts, some general knowledge, just quiz, creative thinking, digital skills, if you like. So if you let them do this Google search at the start of the lesson, it's also important and they will love it. But the primary importance is involvement, fun, and a very positive and interactive start of your grammar lesson. All right? So actually, that's the value. That's the most important thing. Actually, as I've already mentioned at the start, teaching grammar, planning grammar lessons, it's a huge thing, okay? So we can have, I think, up to 10 webinars if we just discuss different ways, different approaches. That's why today, as you probably see here on my slide, it's called a 5-star grammar lesson part 1, because I've only managed today to cover the E stage, the engage stage of the sequence, ESA sequence. And I tried to illustrate through the engage stage the importance of these stars number 4 and 5 in my success criteria system. So grammar is more than just the grammar, and well, our job is to make sure students enjoy your grammar lessons. We plan to continue, our series of webinars will go on, of course, but what concerns this particular topic, there will be another webinar. If you want to learn more, if you want to learn more about ESA, if you want to learn more about the study and activate stages of a grammar lesson, if you want to know what a boomerang method is and why you would need a boomerang in your grammar lesson, so please join my webinar on the 15th of April. It's 6 p.m. The webinar will be paid for. You can see the price here. You will need to register and actually make sure you book your place because the number of visitors will be limited. But 3 people watching me now have a chance to watch the second part, the second webinar about grammar, ESA grammar lesson for free. So those of you who will be the first to write the name of the book, which you see here on the screen, which I mentioned during my session today, which I used to illustrate the grammar lessons. Thank you. I see that we've already have, I think my moderator will help me now. So we have the first 3 people. All right. I think it's Tatiana, so the chat box keeps running. So we will definitely, thank you very much. It's high notes, thank you very much. So the first 3 people who wrote the name of this resource, we will get in touch with you and we will register you actually for the webinar. You will not have to pay for that. Thank you very much. You were very attentive. One more piece of news, I think I must share it with you. Daniel Brayshaw, the author of High Note, is coming to Ukraine for the first time ever. So make sure you just, there is this link on the screen, you can just take a picture and search it later. He will have sessions in Odessa, Kyiv, Lviv, and Dnipro. So you can choose the place which is closest to where you live. He's planning to come, it's I think the last week of March, this school holiday week. So I do hope to see you at one of his events. He's a great teacher trainer. He's a great presenter, and he's a great author. He is the author of High Note, and he also co-authored Focus Second Edition, which is our other course for upper secondary students. So a really talented speaker. So make sure you come. And just as a pleasant surprise, just because it's spring, just because the 8th of March is coming, you have a chance to get a 50% discount for Daniel Brayshaw's event. More information is on our Facebook page. So if you go to the internal Facebook page, you will find the promo code, which you'll need to use use this 5 days to register for Daniel Brayshaw's event with a discount. All right. So more webinars to come. Follow our news, follow our calendar, and well, I do hope to see you again at our further webinars. Again, remember to check your mailboxes to get your certificate and print it out. This is our website, eltdental.com.ua, with information about everything, the events we do, the competitions we run. So everything you need is no preparation, everything. So thank you very much. Actually, that's the end of my session. I want to thank my moderator for help. Once again, those 3 people who were the first to write High Note in their chat boxes in the answer to my question will get in touch, and you'll be registered for the next webinar about grammar planning for free. More information, there is a link, thank you very much, to our Facebook page where you can get a discount to Brayshaw's event. Thanks a lot. I'll stay for another minute probably. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Okay. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you. All right. So hope to see you sometime very soon.